All right, what's going on? What's up? How's everybody doing today? Happy Monday morning. Hope that you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well today. It is Saturday as I record this, but Monday, obviously, as this drops. And it is a new year. And so we get a new intro song, a new outro song. So hope you guys enjoy that. We got that for another, 49 more episodes. Is that how many more weeks there are left in the year? 49 more episodes to listen to that song. And if I don't have a new intro song picked by now, I'll just cut this all out. But if I do, then you guys can enjoy that and ignore that I just said that. And so what's going on? How's everybody doing today? I hope that you're doing well. I know it took me... Oh, also, I love how it's like new year, new intro song. It's like the third episode of the year. But hey, I'll forgive myself for that one. But I don't know if you guys ever will. But what's going on? I had one of those mornings this morning. I'm just going to jump right into it. So I hope you guys don't mind that. But welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hendrickson. If you're brand new to this show, then it's about mental health, self-development, and welcome to the party. Hope that you're doing well. I kind of started this podcast as a way for you, I guess, or someone out there to, just listen to something on a Monday afternoon or a Monday morning, just kind of when you're starting your day or when you're going through your day, just to kind of set the tone for the week. And, sometimes, I guess, I'll just jump into it. So sometimes, I don't know if you guys, obviously, I was going to say I don't know if you relate to this, but I know you fucking relate to this, so I'll just get into it. I had one of those mornings this morning where you kind of wake up a little bit, not really later than I was supposed to. I got up around the right time, like the time that I'm supposed to, that I wanted to get up, the time I usually get up, so I wake up at the right time today. But one of those mornings where I kind of just was like kind of dragging ass and just kind of, I did my routine. I did what I need to do. But it was just kind of like I was just kind of looking at my phone, scrolling around, looking at shit here and there, like watching clips and just kind of, it was just like, it's already been 4 or 5 hours since I've woken up and I'm just kind of at this point of my day, like one of those days. And it's fine to have one of those like slow moving days or kind of, especially if you're just kind of feeling tired or burnt out or you need to rest or recover or whatever it possibly could be. But, I kind of just felt like I was in the mood of like, I got a workout in this morning. I did this, I did that, I had a good breakfast or, and, but I just need to kind of, like, there's a shit that I got to do, and I kind of got to get through my day. And so, like, I kind of was just like, okay, I need to have something to reset me. And it was just kind of like, for me, what I did was what I normally do when I find myself in a foul mood or low energy or low motivation. I put on a, like one of those like motivational speeches, fucking compilation things in my office here, and I just kind of sat down and just wrote down the shit that I need to get done today, what I want to get done this year, this month, this kind of just like what's going on in my head. And lo and behold, I just was like plowing through work. And I think that as cheesy and corny as that sounds, I think that I think a lot of us, we have this weird rough start to our day. And then, I've had this so many times where I just feel like it's like, fuck, I'm kind of in this slump. And I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow is going to be a fucking bang on day, like 10 out of 10. I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to negotiate with myself. And so today I'm just going to continue this chill out, this rest and recovery that I need. And, I start to have this like kind of like negotiation going down in my head, like this kind of like justification period going on, right? And for me, like I kind of just was like thinking about like, how do I fucking snap myself out of this? Like, how do I wish I could just have a good day today. Why do I have to wait for tomorrow? And so like having an idea or a routine of like how to snap yourself out of that, as cheesy as it sounds, like, dude, if it helps you to. And the thing about morning routines is like, and I've spoken about them ad nauseum, but it's like, you get these guys on social media that kind of lay out basically like your 4 hour fucking morning routine that you're supposed to do. You got to do the cold plunge, the red light, the fucking the sauna, the high intensity interval training. You got to do you got to fast, and then you got to eat keto. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do you do some grounding, step on the earth with some bare feet. Like, there's just going to be like so many different fucking, microwave some mittens and put them on your feet. Like, there's just like so many fucking different things. Like, put your socks in the freezer and fucking give them to your brother or something like that. Like, I don't know. There's just like a million things you're supposed to do to have and do it all before 5 a.m. Like there's just like, and drink a mushroom tea and do this and there's all these different things that you're supposed to be doing in the morning, and there's like a 4 hour morning routine that if you look up and read all the books and but you're like, who's gonna fucking do that? Like nobody really does that. And if they do fucking that, if you're spending 4 or 5 hours of your day like fucking doing that, like what are you really getting done? Like what's this for? And so over the years I've experimented with like, okay, I for me, like the time frame is about like 45 minutes to an hour in regards to like a cap for like a morning routine. Like I've got like an hour, like tops. And so I've had to just kind of experiment and think about, what is the best way to do it, because the worst way to do it is to wake up 15 minutes before you fucking have to go somewhere or do something, or, and you wake up and you're like, fuck, shit. Like, I got to get out the door. I got to grab my coffee. I got to grab something to snack on or some lunch for later at best. And, get dressed and get out the door. Like, those mornings or those days where you just kind of like wake up like 5-10 minutes before you have to leave and you're just like stressed and like, it feels like you're in the fight of your life to just try and leave on time, and then traffic sucks, and all of a sudden, like someone passing you is all of a sudden them cutting you off, and then road rage, and then you get to work, and then someone's like, oh, you're late, or maybe you just made it, and then like they say something, and you're like, oh, you had no idea how much I had to deal with already. Like I've already fought 27 battles on the way in. Those days. Well, those days are the worst. And so I kind of like took it upon myself to think about like, how do I make sure that doesn't happen? And obviously it's like having some sort of a morning routine. And so covering, as many bases as I possibly can in as little time as possible. And I've experimented with tons of different things going on in the morning, whether it be, a workout, reading session, stretching, journaling, sleeping in, waking up early. Like I've kind of played around with all these different factors, so like eating in the morning, fasting in the morning, eating fruit in the morning, eating protein in the morning, like all these different things, and just kind of keeping a record, keeping a track of like, how did it actually make me feel? Like and sometimes it's more intuitive of like, just kind of thinking about, is this actually serving me? Is this making me feel good? Is it making my life better? Is it making me a better person? Those types of things. And then when really breaking down to what I have in my morning routine, like it got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm still at like an hour and a half. Like there's no way I could do all of these things in less than an hour. Like I really just had to think about and narrow down, like, what are the non-negotiables? Like what could I do every single day? No negotiation, no like fucking compromise, no like, but I just need to have like a lockdown. And maybe you don't feel like you need to, but like I just felt like I needed to, because I just had so many of those days where something fucking pisses me off or irks me, or, and I react a certain way, and I'm like, man, that's really not who I am. Like, why am I reacting this way? And I just kind of felt like, I need to have something to keep me like grounded, to keep me in a good positive headspace, and not this just kind of like pissed off, anxious, like person all the time. And so like for me, like it was kind of like I'm not interested in medicating myself or doing all these things. It was more about like I need to lock down a thing to keep me feeling good, to not to realize that, not every day is going to be a good day, but there's good in every day. And so I want to get better at scoping out that good. Sometimes you have those days where you come across, like, sometimes you get you encounter people where they're just kind of complaining, and they're like, oh, this traffic sucked, or oh, these fucking paying this tax sucked, or doing this sucked, or doing that. Oh, I stepped in a puddle and my shoe got wet, or my sock got wet, or my coffee was cold by the time I drank it, or they'll just rattle off a list of complaints. And then there's certain days where you're like, man, that fucking sucks. Like, if that happened to me, that would fucking suck. And maybe sometimes you find yourself being that person. Like, you're sitting there complaining about one of these issues where it's kind of like not a fucking issue. And then other days you're kind of just like sitting there, and as they're pouring this negativity on you, you're just kind of like, oh, but at least you got to have coffee today. That's a blessing. Like, there's so many times where it's like, I never find myself really in the middle anymore. Like, it's always like, I've always been the type of person where it's like one or the other. Either the day is really good or the day fucking sucks. Like, that's kind of the way I've always thought about it. And I always wanted to think about, like, how do I make myself more prone to just like having, like, I felt like it was random. I felt like it was just like kind of as I woke up, like it was just kind of like, okay, I guess, like, well, let's just see if today's going to be a good day or if today's going to be a bad day. And I kind of realized more recently that it's kind of like, you actually have the power. Like, you can't control every single thing in the world, but like there is some power that you have on how your mood is going to be, how your energy levels, how you're going to react to all these different things. And there's like this idea of like, I could understand it theoretically, but then there's also like if you actually experience it and actually live through it, then you kind of start to understand it a lot more. Like, kind of like the difference between knowing and understanding. And maybe those sound like the same thing to you, but trust me, it's very, very different. Like, so yeah, I just kind of had this like, this infatuation with like kind of developing a morning routine. And so one of the biggest questions that I've asked myself recently, when I was kind of like through the process of elimination of like figuring out what I should be doing on a daily basis, or what's like the, if I only have time for these couple things, what is it going to be? And so for me, it is first thing, obviously after I go to the washroom, and right after that, it's like start my coffee machine. But no, seriously, the first thing I do is I exercise. The very first thing I do is to do a little bit of exercise, nothing too intense, and I'll get to that in a bit. But on like literally all it is I do like a little circuit right now of like jump on the exercise bike, pedal as hard as I can for about 5 minutes, and then after that I do like a set of push-ups, a set of pull-ups, a set of sit-ups, and then repeat. And I just do that for about 20 minutes. So about 4 or 5 sets of just like bike 5 minutes, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, bike 5 minutes, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. You get the gist of that. So 25-minute exercise just to get the blood flowing. A little bit of reading, a little bit of journaling. That's it. That's just like as simple as it could possibly be. It takes me about 45 minutes to an hour. 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes of reading, half hour reading, and then like 5-10 minutes just to write down my thoughts and everything that's going on. And so the reason I kind of thought of it that way is because I used to try and get my actual workout in of the day first thing in the morning. There used to be like this meditation thing, there used to be this, there used to be that, whatever it is. I've played around with so many different things, and the reason that I kind of selected these things to do first thing in the morning is because I asked myself the question of like, are these things important to do in a day, or are they important to do in the morning? And what I mean by that is, what are the three, like I kind of asked myself, like, what are the 2 or 3 main things that I need to do before I interact with people? Because if it's just important to do during the day, then I'll fucking get to that later. There's going to be days where I'm pressed for time. There's going to be days where I can't do this, I can't do that due to uncertain circumstances. But like push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups, like a little bit of fucking movement first thing in the morning, I can do that anywhere. No negotiations, no, like whether I'm camping, whether I'm doing this, whether I'm doing that, like it's like I can wake up and do a couple push-ups. I can do a little bit of movement first thing. I can read no matter where I'm at. I can journal, and the rest of the things, those things I can get done after work. Those things I can get done. You just have to be disciplined enough to actually do that, because if you find yourself being that person where you're kind of making excuses and not doing it, well, then you're probably just compromising. But I just, for me, excuse me, I had to really ask myself, like, what are the things that I need to do before I interact with other people? And meditation's a really good one, but a lot of the time I kind of just felt like meditation put me in a better headspace to just kind of interact with, and maybe meditation is something that you could sneak in a little, like 5 minutes in at the very end. And I'm not saying like to exclude these things because they're not important to do, or because they're not beneficial, or they're not helpful. But for me, I had to ask myself, like, what are the things that I feel like, does that make sense? Because it's like, there's not like a one size fit all. And you kind of just have to ask yourself, like, what, if I take a look at my body, like, what will make this run optimally? And then think about your brain, think about your mind, your body, your spirit, like all of these different like components of who you are as a person. And then think about, what makes this vehicle operate the very best? Like, what works for yours isn't always going to work for mine. And just kind of playing around with it and just experimenting with it. And so, yeah, I had one of those mornings this morning where I was just kind of like floating through my daily routine. I did my bike, I did my push-ups, did my pull-ups, I did a little bit of reading, did a little bit of journaling here, and, I needed that extra kick. So I started listening to, I just literally searched up like "Start Your Day Right" on YouTube, and just found, just like one of those like cheesy, like inspirational, it was probably fucking AI generated, but just one of those things that it has like the nice music going on in the background that sounds like kind of like an intro to a movie, and or like it kind of sounds like what you think, like kind of like maybe like New Life or New Creation sounds like. Like it sounds like inspiring. It has the sounds of inspiration in it. Like one of those cheesy ass videos where you're like, yeah, I don't know. I can't even think of what that music's called, but you know what I mean, like that instrumental music in the background, and then there's just like some kind of maybe some Les Brown like kind of patched over top of it, and one of those like corny videos. And it sounds cheesy, it sounds corny. It's literally something that like I would have looked up like 10 years ago. But I think just kind of like having those like hot buttons that you can just push of like, people always say like that's one of the biggest issues of like dopamine and the feedback that you get from social media, and like going on and using AI and utilizing technology of like, oh, I want to feel this way, so like let me just hit like a couple of buttons. And like obviously there's ways through like these things that we've been talking about, having in your morning routine, like meditation and journaling and blah 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 blah, where you can kind of take your mind from where it is to where you'd like it to be. Like if you're in a negative headspace, to put it into a positive headspace. And I think that like there's that kind of like old story. I think Joe Rogan talks about it on his podcast often, where there's like an old story of like a man who's like bragging to the Buddha. Like he meets the Buddha and he's like trying to tell the Buddha, like to try and impress him, like of like, hey, like I've meditated, I've done like all these different spiritual practices. I like learned how to walk on water. And so like I can, walk on water. And then the Buddha says like, hey, that's amazing. Like, congratulations. But like the ferry is 5 cents, or the ferry's a nickel, or whatever. And I guess the moral of the story is like, yeah, you can spend your whole life like, your whole day, like kind of like figuring out ways to do these things on your own. But then there's another argument to be made of like, if you can use like a tool or a button to just like kind of take your mind from like this like unproductive dwelling in the negativity and dwelling in the past to like, hey, I'm gonna just like kind of get up from where I'm at, take a look at where my surroundings are, what my bearings are, like figure out where I want to go and get the fuck over there. Like if you could find a tool instead of just like spending like 15, 20, 30 minutes or an hour or 44 fucking hours trying to get your brain from A to B, like, hey, this is where I'm at to this is where I want to be. If you could just fucking throw on one of those cheesy, corny videos, if someone, like not care about like if someone's going to judge you or if someone's kind of like, you know what works for you. And so like kind of like ignoring the rest of the fucking noise going on in the background and just realizing like, I need to get my brain right. I need to stop scrolling. I need to stop doing this shit that's distracting me. I need to stop eating these fucking things I'm not supposed to be eating. I need to stop fucking, if you can snap yourself back into that, like, cause I literally feel like sometimes there's like different, it's like a different person, that person that you are when you're like motivated, you see the junk food and you're like, I literally don't even want that because I know it's going to hurt my stomach. It's going to make me feel this way. It's going to make me feel that way. And then there's other times where like, I'm an absolute glutton of like, I'll fucking eat everything in front of me and I'll finish every single plate. Like I won't even like the food and I'll be like, all right, give me one of those. Like I'll fucking try some of that. Like, and if you had a button, if you had a tool to help you get from that, from the first person to the second person, it's like, yeah, I'm going to take that every time. Like if that was a pill or a drug or a medicine, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take that every single day. And that truly is what your morning routine should be for you. It's like whatever gets you from the first thing to the second thing, that's the thing we should be doing. And I harp on AI a lot and all these different like social media and these tools because I think that we should try and create as much separation from them as we possibly can. I think that so many people are kind of literally, we talked about the jobs thing, I think last time and just kind of thinking about like how the buttons and the instant gratification. But one of the things I've noticed, and this is just only like kind of a perspective that I've been having recently, I think is just kind of like, I've employed obviously like AI and these different kind of tools in my life, in my podcast, because I've thought about, what are the skills that I think are necessary, that I deem necessary, that I want to learn, that I want to spend my time doing, and what are the other things that I can kind of offload? What are the other things that I kind of need a hand with that I would hire somebody for, but I can't really afford to, or don't really want to spend that money or, invest that. It's like I could literally just do this on a website for 5 minutes and just get the same result. Or sometimes it's even a better one because I suck with technology. But I think that a lot of the times when I've spoken to other people and just interacted with other people in my life, hearing about the way that they use AI and all these different tools on social media and different websites and different businesses and different, like skip the dishes and all these different things, I've just been thinking a lot recently about, what we've been using AI, because I think a lot of the time we think about the promise of AI. The promise of AI is like one of those, even, if you think about it from like a perspective of like laundry machines, when laundry machines first came out, it's like this brand new revolutionary technology. Like I don't need to use a washboard anymore and manually scrub like all my fucking different articles of clothing and transfer it from one bucket to another bucket and then go out in my fucking yard and hang dry it and hope the birds don't shit on it and hope it doesn't rain. Like, what do you even do if you live like in Vancouver here? It fucking rains every day. You can't even hang your shit outside. There's all this. Doing laundry would have been like a fucking whole ordeal. You make your whole fucking day around. And now it's like we just have like a laundry machine. And so when you think about like, what are these technologies that we're using nowadays? Like I just realized I sound like I'm fucking 70 years old saying this, but like, think about the way we employ technologies today, like the way that we use technologies and AI and social media. Like a lot of us sometimes some people will say, oh, I use it for marketing. Some people will be like, oh, I use it to make my life more efficient. Some people will be like, oh, I use it to help me in a creative way. And, I'm not even trying to say that there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I just feel like the promise of AI in the very beginning feels like to me that, we would get to replace all of these like mundane tasks that we don't want to do, that take up a lot of time, so we could use our time and our energy more efficiently. It would kind of just be like replacing, like, when we first think about the jobs that it would replace, the burger flipping or the fucking manual labor job, the digging, like, we have a technology, so you don't have to use a shovel, you can use an excavator, and then all of a sudden you won't even have to use the excavator, it'll run on its own, it'll know where the pipes in the ground are and things like that. And so we have this idea that like AI and technology is going to hinder or maybe replace like manual labor. And everyone kind of thinks that it's just going to make us these like weird, dickless, fucking muscleless, soft, hairless creatures. And maybe it will. But I've been thinking a lot more recently about how tempting it is to start to use AI in more intellectual ways, because obviously there's people that are using it to write essays or read books, like, hey, give me a fucking summary on this book, or give me a thought about this. But then there's other people thinking about like using it as like a counselor or a fucking like asking it certain questions and doing these things. And then for me in my life, like there's this temptation to be like, okay, like could you write me a script for a podcast, like write me an outline for this, write me a this, or what's trending on mental health podcasts. There's all these different ideas and tools, and there's no right, like I said, there's no like objectively like, oh, this is the just way to use it, or this is an unjust way to use it, or I feel like there's so many different perspectives, like there's so many different nuances, like everything else in this world. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like when we think about AI and technology, we think of that it's going to replace like our manual labor, the things that we have to like physically manually do. But it feels like a lot of people, like even I've used it to kind of think about like meal plans, or I've had a buddy tell me that he had a vacation planned by ChatGPT, like telling him where to go, what sites to see, where to stay. And it's like where I feel like and I'm not dogging on anybody, because like I said, like I've played around with it and there's temptations to play around with it, but it's like we had this promise of like, oh, it's going, and maybe I have a misconception of it. Maybe you guys can let me know what you think, but it's like this idea of like it's going to replace all the manual shit that we have to do. But I feel like part of it is like kind of replacing the creative aspect, or the ability to think of new ideas, or to implement new ideas, or how to do get outside your comfort zone and do things you haven't done before. Like I feel like it's almost like if you were to project that into the future, if this trend continues, like it's like, oh, we're not doing like the art and the creating anymore. Like it's like humans are just going to be like the manual slave bots, and then all the creativeness and all the intricacies and the nuances and the thoughts and all these different, like the reading the book and the what do you think about this and tell me about that, is all going to be done by AI. Like that's like the opposite of what I if you would have asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or whenever, it's like that's the opposite. Like it's like, no, the robots will be doing all the manual shit and will be doing the thinking, will be doing the chilling and laying around and reading the books and doing this and doing that. It's like, no, the laundry will be done, the dishes will be done by the robots, the manual shit, the oil changes, but it feels like it's like the opposite of what we were told. And so I don't know, that's just my own little fucking random thought of the day as we end this episode on, I don't know how that fucking connects with morning routines or the topic we were chatting about, but just something to think about, I guess. And I'm not trying to say that AI or technology or any of that shit, like social media, I can effectively say, like, I try and distance myself from it as much as possible. It is pretty fucking evil. And like, even the best aspects of it, like the very best aspects of it, other than just like, connecting to different people across the country or across the world like that think the same way, or have similar goals in mind, or kind of make you feel more connected. But like the other side of it is like the entertainment side of it, and even that is fucking evil in and of itself. Because like I said, I started my day off like far too often, sitting on the toilet watching reels, or fucking even just like doing the right things, like doing my morning routine, and still effectively find myself, after doing it, sitting there scrolling, and then like wondering, oh, why do I feel this like weird pit inside my stomach? Why do I feel like shit? Why do I, and it's because I'm being literally like, like when you think of like what's that word when someone's just like kind of like not just like a sloth, but like kind of just like what do they call it? Is it heathen? Like a heathen. And like when you think of that, you think of the people that are like doing drugs and having sex and doing this and doing, but like the new age heathen is literally just like the fucking scroller. The person that's just like consuming. It's just now we're not just like consuming the sex, drugs, and rock and roll and the food and the drugs and whatever. It's like we're just one drug, just reels, just TikTok. That's all. Just fucking mainline it all day. And yeah, so I guess just knowing what makes you more susceptible to that and how to get out of it. And so on that note, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. Enjoy the new outro music. Share this with a friend if you enjoy it, or if you fucking think that they need to hear it. And see you guys next Monday. Much love. Peace out. Bye.